Hi! I thought today I would show you how to start onion seeds. Many people struggle with growing onions, and I know it took me 3 years before I finally figured it out on how to do it well. So one of the key things is starting them early enough. So I start them middle of February. So today's the 13th, so close enough to the middle of the month. So that's when I usually start them. So a couple things that we need to know. We're in Zone 5B in Eastern Ontario, and our equinox on June 21st is we have about 15 and a half hours of daylight. Because of that, we need to get long day onion seeds. This is because the equinox is what actually triggers the bulbing formation to happen. So if you don't have a good start on your growing of your onions, then your seeds then they will not be mature enough to start bulbing and get a nice big bulb in time before they die off. Usually that would be in probably August, mid-August. First of all, why do I even bother growing them from seed? We can get bulbs, little miniature bulbs that you can just stick in the ground, and that's really, nice, and it's a little easier, but I do find that the birds will actually come and pick those out once you plant them. The other thing is there's no varieties. You just get either cooking or a red onion or whatever varieties are available, but there's not that many of them. And then on top of that, it's the cost. You get maybe, 20, 30 bulbs in a packet, which might be lots for you. But for someone like me who uses them all year round and doesn't buy onions from the store, I need probably closer to 150 or at least 100 of my cooking onions, at least. So that's one of the reasons I go with seeds. And I love the varieties that you can get. So this year I decided to go with Vessi seeds. Actually, I'll just give you down below, I'll let you know what kinds of seeds that I've got. But I do have a cooking onion, I have a red onion that's used for sweet salad as well as for cooking, and I have a white onion, which is really, really nice for cooking, making onion rings, as well as the best French onion soup. I use a growing mix. It's called Pro Mix BX. It comes in a huge bale, and that's just a general all-purpose starter, and it's great for seeds, and it's great for all-purpose any use that you want. But it doesn't have any really nutrients in it, so that's something to keep in mind. But it also has no weed seeds, so that's great. I went ahead and put my Pro Mix in my containers that I'm using. And one of the great things that I like is that I just use any type of container that I can find that will serve its purpose. So one of those is this one. I need something that's fairly tall, so you're gonna look for something at least 2 inches to 3 inches, because the onion seeds are gonna stay in here. They do not get transplanted like I do for my tomatoes and pepper seeds. So they stay in here right until planting season. It does need to be quite deep. So I packed it all in here, and I made sure that the Pro Mix is nice and moist. So, and it can be any seed starter. Doesn't have to be that specific type, but as long as it's a seed starter or all-purpose that is good for starting seeds and has no weeds in it. So I love reusing different containers. So this one is an old drywall screw, or actually it's deck screw container. But it's perfect for my cooking onions. So because I will plant the most cooking onions, that's the one I'm going to put in there. These are actually just old, I think they're sausage or hamburger ones, and I just washed them well and stuck the dirt in it. They'll do just fine for my red onions and my white onions. So yeah, so I just fill it in as much as I can. I'm gonna have to top it up just lightly with soil afterwards. So just make sure that there's, you know, maybe a half an inch to an inch left there. So these are my cooking onions. And it's quite simple, but I will use my glasses because it's important to see the seeds going on. And all I do is a nice little light sprinkle. Pretty simple. Light sprinkle. And there are, I think it's 200 seeds in this packet. So that's a lot of seeds. So I may or may not put them all in. So I'm just gonna kind of sprinkle. Usually I do like 150 or so I probably have a little extra. They're okay, they seem to do well even if they're crowded a bit. So it doesn't seem to hurt them too much, but I'll just do a nice little amount. And there's probably about 50 seeds left there. So that's probably my 150. So I'll look a bit and make sure there's not too many that are too tight together. But again, they don't seem to mind it too much if they're a little crowded. So that's all I do there. And then, okay. And then I'm just gonna sprinkle some dirt in here. And it's just a very light layer. It's not a lot. Just enough to just kind of cover loosely. So make sure it's loose, but don't move around too many of the seeds. You're not trying to. And then I'm just gonna push it down. And you should have pushed down what was in there already existing. You need to have it nice and packed. Seeds will not start if they're not touching the dirt well and getting moisture on them. So it's important to do that. So it's important to pack the seed, the dirt on top nice and tight. Okay, now it is damp, my soil. It's very important to make sure that the soil that you've put in here is damp, but not soggy wet. You want it to just be, here, I'll do it from this one. It still breaks apart, no problem, but it doesn't stick together and it's not soggy. It's just damp. So that's important. So one more step to do, and that is I like to spray all of my baby seedlings before, like the seeds, sorry, not the seedlings, but the seeds with chamomile tea mix. That is because it's kind of what it's what I've replaced with what I used to use was called Damp Off. And Damp Off is a fungicide that you used to be able to buy in Canada, and I don't think you can get it anymore. So I learned years ago that if you make an extra strong chamomile tea and put it and just put it in a sprayer, then you can just go ahead and sprinkle and just, I do it fairly good, so you know it gets through a little bit because there is a little bit of a layer, but it works very good. Make sure you strain your chamomile if it's not a store-bought one. So I actually have chamomile that I grow in my garden, and it's dried out, and then I use 2 to 3 tablespoons of this, and I put it in a tea bag so that it's good. So I use my own chamomile tea or chamomile that I grow in my garden, and I just dry it in the summer. Just the heads, I let them dry just naturally and then throw them in a jar, and they keep quite well. But there is no problem with going ahead and using 2 to 3 tea bags from a store and steeping that in a couple cups of water. So I make about that much, and I just guesstimate, but I put probably 3 tablespoons of my own homemade chamomile in it. But just make sure you do strain it, because it can get skunky if it's not pure, if it's not clear. And again, all I do is I check and I take a sniff. If it smells like chamomile tea, great. If it's starting to kind of go off, the seeds seem to be okay still, even with that smell, that odor, but I tend to just go ahead and make another batch. But usually this will be enough for the whole season. You can refrigerate half of this if you wanted to and put it in the fridge. That might keep it a little bit more so it won't go bad as well. One of the most important things to do that I didn't mention was making sure that you put a tag in all of your seeds pots, because you will forget what they are. And I might remember these are all onion seeds, but I won't remember these are, well, I'll remember these are cooking, but I won't know which one is red and which one is white. And it would be nice to know that at planting season. Sometimes you can tell, but sometimes you can't. So I will mark everything with something. So these ones are Frontier cooking onions. So I'm going to go ahead and put that just on there. And this is actually a kind of a cool thing too, if you love to reuse things. Old window blinds. My sister-in-law gave me this idea, and basically you can use them that way, and you can cut them big like that, which is great for something like this, but when you're doing tomatoes and you've got a little pot, I make little ones like this. And because they're plastic, they're hard, and they're great for writing on, and I just use a good marker. And I actually reuse them often year to year if I've got the same type of thing going on. So, and these just usually stick in there quite easily. And actually right now I'm going to actually put it on the side so that it's underneath the plastic when the time comes. So rather than poking it in. So that's that one, and I'm going to actually write them out beforehand. So this is my white, and I'm just going to go white onion, and this one is Superstar. So that one I'm just going to put on the side for now, and the other one is my red onion, and it's called Red Carpet. So there we go. So those are all set. Now at least I won't mess them up, hopefully. So I'll just sit them in. Make sure they don't tip though. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to start my Red Carpet onion seeds from Vessie's. This one had 200 seeds as well, and I don't need 200 seeds. And normally, you can only keep onion seeds for a year. But last year I had great success with actually storing it, and I was able to get away with using it for 2 years in a row. So it was great. So I will not want to do more than half of these, and try that again. Big secret with that is keeping them cool and dry. And that's another video, hopefully, in the future. So that's probably lots, so I'm not going to put any more. So that's enough that I can actually save those and probably get them next year as well. And because these are all hybrids, they will typically do better in the storing, I think, than the open pollinated. So I do go hybrid for onions, just because they have mildew and mite issues that seem to do better. The hybrids do better than the open pollinators. If you have a good year, open pollinators work okay. But they do tend to have more issues when it's a bad year and it's damp, cool, anything like that. If it's extra dry, the mites can be bad. The other advantage of using hybrid seeds is they don't bolt as easily. I don't think I've ever had a hybrid onion bolt on me prematurely. And that's really important if you're planning on storing the onions for any length of time. So another thing to note is the white onion tends to keep okay, but not, I find a variety that will store, but they're usually the first ones to start to bolt in storage. My reds usually do really good in storage, and so do my cooking onions. As you can see, these onions are gorgeous still. They're nice and solid. It is February, and I have better onions than the store. Typically, when you buy them in the store, they'll start to go soft. Mine usually are still nice and hard and easy to cut, even later in the season. So, okay. So now I'm just going to add some dirt. So I put seeds in these two. This one is done. Grab a small handful of dirt. Sprinkle that on. Pat it down. Make it hard. Okay. And the other one. Onions are pretty forgiving when it comes to the amount of dirt on top, so it's not really, they're not usually finicky. The key thing with seeds is typically the bigger the seed, the more dirt you can actually put on them. So if it's a really fine seed, typically you're putting very little. So I put a little bit more on these than I would other stuff. There we go. Again, chamomile. Don't forget, chamomile is great. It really does help, and onions aren't necessarily ones that need it, but it's just good if you remember to do it with everything, then you've got it and it's great. But it's really important for things like arugula seeds. If you ever have anything that ever has seed that actually just kind of falls off, like it grows for a bit and then it just kind of just rots near the surface, that's actually from damp off. So there are some tricks to deal with when you get finicky, and if I ever do a video about arugula, I will definitely show you the trick at that point. So hopefully that will come. All right. So last but not least, you need to cover them. So I'm actually going to take this and cut it. Actually, I'm going to so I've decided I'm just going to use this old bag that I had organic sugar in, and I'm going to cut it. Because these often don't get recycled. I don't think they're recyclable in our area. So it's nice when you can use this for something else. So when I put it over under the lights, I'm just going to cover it like that. And for onion seeds, that's plenty. The moisture will be fine, and I can check it in a few days. And if it's not moist, I can always spray some more chamomile on it. Okay, thanks for watching. So this is my grow light that my husband built for me. So these are just basic fluorescent lights that he just made a stand for, and there's two of them, but I only have the top on right now. But he's made slats so that we can slide these as the plants grow. You can actually just move them down or up. Right now they're on the highest because we want them as close to the light as possible. So, and the key to the fluorescent lights, I use fluorescent, but the key is, there's two ways to go. One is to use grow lights, which are quite expensive. I think they're like 30 bucks a bulb. Or you can go with a warm and a cool light. So you can get bulbs that are warm and bulbs that are cold. So that is key, and as long as you have one of each, you are getting the full spectrum as if it's like the sun. So, and I have not had any issues with using that instead of grow lights, but that is totally up to you. Grow lights work, and it's a no-brainer. You don't have to remember which one's what. So I can totally get that too, but it works just fine. So there's my, and there's my cooking onions, my red onions, and my white onions there. And then I'm just going to cover them with this opaque piece of plastic, but it's more moisture, and as long as light is coming through at this stage, that's all that matters. And onions aren't too bad for that. So anyway, so I hope you enjoyed this video. God bless and happy gardening. And I am going to put these up higher. So they are a bit warped, so I do have to put them in the right way, right order. But I'm going to actually put these on the very tallest that I can. Oh man, big errors. What? We'll edit that out.